Welcome to Creative Piano Academy with me, Joseph Sikora, and today we're looking at a few ways we can take those dull, those boring and monotonous exercises and make them a little bit more fun and interesting. Because, the amount of times I see people going through the motions, bored doing these repetitive exercises, there's a time and a place for that. But, there's so many reasons to make these exercises more fun and interesting. You'll be more engaged because you're having more fun. And of course, if you're more engaged, you're going to be more focused. And it doesn't take a genius to work out that the more focused you are, the more benefit you're going to get out of that piano practice. So here's a few ideas you can use to make those piano exercises more interesting. I just do the intro, whatever, you know how it goes. Hey guys, before we get going, I have one small request, and that is, if you're enjoying my videos and you're getting value out of them, please think of 3 people in your life who you think would benefit from my videos and email them and tell them how much you're getting out of my YouTube channel and link them to it, just so they know where all the action's happening. Thanks guys, I appreciate that, and of course, if you haven't done so already, smash that subscribe button. Now, let's get going. Okay guys, so I'm going to show you a few ways you can spice up these exercises to make them a little bit more fun to play and interesting, and this is by no means a huge comprehensive list of stuff. It's just a few ideas for you to take your exercises, make them more interesting, more fun to play, generally just get more benefit out of them. So let's say we're working on the right hand, and you might have seen this exercise from me a few times. I teach it in a few other videos. We just start off in the C position and we run up and down the 5 notes like this, okay? You can play as slow or as fast as is comfortable, but it's generally a really good exercise to get your finger strength up, get that finger independence. So it just goes like this, from C to G, up and down, okay? So, very, very good exercise, very beneficial, but as you can hear, might get a little bit boring. So what we can do is bring this left hand in. Now, really simply, okay, because this is, you're wanting the benefit out of the right hand, so it's not going to be anything too taxing in the left. All we're going to do is play a C, which is the root note of the exercise we're doing. So we're going C to G, our root note is a C, so I'm just going to play a C in the bass, like this. So, now all of a sudden we get this. Okay? Now, what we call the relative minor to this C is going to be this A. To find the relative minor, we just go down 3 half steps. We go down 1, 2, 3 half steps. Now we're interested in the relative minor because the relative major and the relative minor go really nicely together, basically. So chances are, if I'm repeating a pattern over and over again, that those same notes will work over the root note, in this case, which is the C, and the relative minor. That's why it's so good, because it uses the same notes. So in this case, I'm going to go between this C and then the A. So I'll just go between those like this. And this is good because it's changing that tonality of the exercise. It's not just the same thing over and over again. Pull the pedal down. Go as fast or as slow as you need to. Speed it up. You can do it on each pattern as well. So there we go, that's a basic example of supporting just a right-hand sequential pattern like that, the most basic of the basics. What if we wanted to do chords? So the same thing applies. Let's say the objective of this exercise is to, say, work on our rhythms, work on our chords. So I'm just trying to keep a nice steady pulse going with this C chord like this. And I'm getting used to that rhythm, okay? Now I'll bring the same thing in, so. Immediately it changes that chord, and it's something else to listen to. And incidentally, actually, this reminds me of something. What's it remind me of now? So there you go, you're just doing these exercises and you sort of start hearing stuff and hearing songs that have already been written. But more importantly, this can lead on to your own stuff, your own creative stuff. It's the very, very basics, the very, very beginnings of starting to be a bit more creative and playing around with stuff. So there you go, that's just an example with chords. Nice and simple. You can play them faster. can do what I was doing by just syncopating, you know. You can go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Entirely up to you. So that's an example using chords. Arpeggios, same thing. Step the pedal down. You know, the objective is to work this arpeggio. But what if I want to work my dynamics a bit as well? And tempo, but speeding up, slowing down, getting louder, getting softer. You can just play around with it. You know, stick the pedal down as well. Okay, so those are a few examples. One more exercise that I haven't really shown in any video before, which is really good for finger independence, is let's say we start off with a G here. Let's go 1 and 2, and so we're going between these two. These two are particularly difficult. These are the weakest fingers, so it's really good to start working these fingers like this. So we'll go. We'll start off with the G each time, and we'll go G F, and then G E. That's our little loop, okay? So we're just going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just repeat it. Make sure it's even. When you get used to it, let's bring the left hand in. And there we go. Now it's not much, okay? So you might be thinking, well, okay, fair enough, we've got a C and an A, but even that can get boring pretty quickly. So once you get used to that, and you remember, in stages, it's all layers, so once you get used to that and you're getting bored with that one, then one little trick you can do to take it a little bit further than that is bring in the G and the F as well. Now, the C, A, G, and F are really good notes to use. They all form the root notes of the 1-4-5-1 chord sequence, so this is where it starts to get creative as well, because you begin to hear what sounds good, what doesn't sound good, but it's all in the process of learning. So I can bring in any of these notes. So let's say I'll go back to the arpeggio exercise. We could go. And I can just start playing around with them, putting them in any order. Any order I want. Changes the tonality all the time. This one as well. That works really nicely. So there we go, you get the idea. So at the core of what I'm showing you here is just basically ways to change the tonality constantly of what we're doing in the right hand, and by doing that makes it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fun to play. Now, before we move on to me showing you a few things we can do in the right hand to support some left hand exercises, two things. So we're not like looking to create the most epic, amazing kind of music in the world here. That's not what this is about. It's about just beginning that kind of little creative journey, if you will, okay? So it's just showing you a few ways you can change the tonality around of some stuff you're doing in the right hand. Pretty much as simple as that. And you get a flavor. The more you do this, the more you'll realize what sounds good, what doesn't sound good, and you'll begin to develop that natural feeling for it. Second thing is, these are all about exercises. So I do have, check the cards, something called the Best Adult Piano Practice Plan. Get yourself a copy of that. You can put all these exercises into my piano practice routine, and I also go through various different ways that you can get the most out of it, because we want to be sitting at, when we sit in front of that piano, we want to be getting the most out of it. So grab yourself a copy of that, really useful. So some left hand exercises. What can we do if we are working on our left hand? How can we make that a little bit more interesting? Let's say in the left hand I'm working on a simple left hand pattern. So let's say I'm just moving between these three notes like this. One of the most basic left hand patterns you can do, just alternating between the C, G, C, G, getting it nice and even like that. Okay. So in my right, what I can do is I can start playing around with melody. Okay. So the very, very basics. I want to give you something simple that you can just repeat, and then I'll show you a few ways you can develop that. But first of all, just alternate between C and G like this, okay? So if I get my right hand, instead of I'll play it as octaves. So don't forget, if you're struggling with octaves, then don't worry, you can play single notes, but it sounds nicer as octaves, so I'm going to play it as octaves. So let's say we've got our pattern going. All I'm going to do is alternate between C and G, like this. And it's giving something at the top. It's not the most interesting of things, but it's something. Okay. So that's all that is. I'm just alternating between C and G like that. Now listen to what happens. Let's say we've got used to that pattern in the left. A natural extension to this is just moving between two chords. So let's move between C and F. And incidentally, I do have a video on the most epic chord progression ever. Check the cards. And this chord progression here, I explore it in a lot of detail, so you'll get quite a bit out of that video if you're enjoying what I'm doing here. Anyway, so C and F. So just go between those. That's my little exercise. Now listen. So if I bring the right hand in, speed it up a little bit in the right hand. I can, you know, I can just put these in kind of any kind of timing that I want. And you can just keep alternating between those two notes. Now, what if we wanted to take that into maybe practicing arpeggios in the left hand? So we know the importance of arpeggios, especially when it comes to left hand technique. So let's say I'm working on this C arpeggio here. My goal is to improve my left hand accuracy, just moving up and down these notes like this. So I'm going C, E, G, C, G, E, C, like that. Well, let's say I've got used to it and I want to give it a little bit of oomph. Go C, and there we go. The beginnings of something. Changing chords. Now my goal is to switch chords with the left hand. That's my little practice goal. Spread it out a bit. So there we go, same technique in the right hand, exploring arpeggios in the left. And don't forget, you can use this over any left hand pattern, so maybe we're doing something a little bit more intricate, a little more interesting, like, I don't know, anything, you know? I'm just practicing a left hand pattern. We've got a riff. So just start inventing your own left-hand patterns, or explore some of my other videos. I give you quite a few in those. So anyway, you get the idea. Now, as always with my videos, I want to take it a little bit further in case that's a little bit too easy for you or you've got used to that. Just like I told you that this is just the beginning, really, okay? So these are just two notes that work really well, the root and the fifth, okay, in the key of C. Let's say we are practicing that changing chords in the left hand. So let's say we're moving between the C. Well, first of all, actually, what you can do is instead of just using these two notes, you can add in the E as well. And you start playing around with all these notes, okay? All the notes in the C major chord. So you could do that, but when you get used to that, and you want to start switching between chords like this is where you can start getting really nice melodies coming through. So I'm going to use a C, E, and G for the first chord, for the C chord, because that's my C major chord. I'm just using those notes. And when I move up to the F, I'm just going to use C, A, and F in the right hand. I'm going to pick any of these notes. Why? Because this is the F major chord, okay? So I'm just moving between C major and F major. Okay. So with that in mind, I can add those notes in the right hand, and we get something like this. So all I'm doing is playing around with maybe a little bit of rhythm here and there, but I don't have to. I can just practice it. You know, that sounds nice. All I'm doing is I'm using the notes on the C major scale here, and then the F major here. Okay. Arpeggios. So of course, you know, there's loads more stages we could go over to start developing that melody a little bit more and giving you that sense of melody, but you know, it's outside the scope of this video. Basically, stick with that so far. So start off with just the C and the G, and then start playing around with the notes out of whatever chord you're moving to in the left hand, and that should give you something to really spice up your left hand a little bit by just adding a little bit of melody in. So those are a few examples for you of how we can spice up some right hand patterns, how we can spice up some left hand patterns, but I want you to be aware that if you get out of this video, if you get just a few ways to start having a bit more fun with your exercises, fine, absolutely fine. But the deeper layer to this is it's starting to develop your sense of melody, start developing your sense of chord progressions, you know, what sounds good, what doesn't. The more you do this, the more it'll seep into your bones, and you'll be able to feel what sounds good, and it's a way of starting you off on that journey. So bear in mind that's always going to be working behind the scenes, but like I said, loads of stuff for you to be getting on with. Get started with some exercises. Back to me. Okay guys, thanks for watching, and I really hope this video has given you a few ideas you can use to basically turn any idea you want really into something that sounds a little bit more interesting. It's not about giving you like the, you know, be all and end all, everything you can possibly do. Hopefully it's given you a few ideas, and of course in the process have more fun and become better pianists. Go to creativepianoacademy.com for my latest premium resource. At the time of this video, it's the best adult piano practice plan. Brilliant if you want to know what to do to sit in front of that piano and make sure you're not wasting any time. It's really good. Grab yourself a copy, like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.